Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Saturday. It's the 29th day of November, 2025. And in the headlines, the missiles are flying and the airspace is being closed. All right, let's look at the stories. First of all, from Breitbart, President Trump says consider Venezuelan airspace closed in its entirety as the U.S. is about to attack the drug cartels there in Venezuela. And then from Sky News, Ukraine war latest deadly attacks on Kyiv as Russia launches dozens of missiles and hundreds of drones. We will have the latest update where we're at right now with the peace negotiations and what's all taking place there between Ukraine, the United States, and Russia. And this story from the Jerusalem Post, ballistic missiles launched from Iran towards the Kurdistan region of Iraq. All this in preparation for further attacks on Israel. So we'll talk about that. And then a story here from Breitbart, also from the United States. This is a very difficult story here, a very problematic story. Nationwide raids nab 250 foreign CDL truck drivers. The Department of Homeland Security warns cartel exploitation threatens Homeland Security. This is a big problem here in the U.S., and we'll talk about it. So, what do we find here? Wars and rumors of war, exactly what we're expecting to find in the last days, as the Lord Jesus predicted. So let's look at the headlines. Headline one, President Trump says consider Venezuela airspace closed in its entirety. Again from Breitbart. Writing in a post on Truth Social, the president said to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider, and this is all uppercase, the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. That's all uppercase letters. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Per Fox Business, direct flights from the U.S. passenger and cargo carriers to the country under a socialist dictatorship were suspended in 2019. However, the article said some planes still fly over it. In a call with military personnel on Thanksgiving, Trump said that the land strikes on Venezuela would start very soon as part of his administration push to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers. This is from The Hill. In recent weeks, you've been working to deter Venezuelan drug traffickers, of which there are many, Trump told military personnel in his remarks on Thanksgiving. Of course, there aren't too many coming in by sea anymore. You probably notice that people aren't waiting to be delivering by sea, and we'll be starting to stop them by land also, he said. The land is easier, but that's going to start soon. We warn them, stop sending poison to our country, Trump added. He recently stated that discussions with Venezuela's socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro were possible, and Maduro wanted to engage, according to Breitbart News. Trump said in October that Maduro had offered everything to cling to power when asked about a rumor of Maduro and those under him reaching out to the administration. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to blank around with the United States, Trump said. On Monday, U.S. officials designated Venezuela Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. UPI reported, noting the cartel is a decentralized network of government and military officials in Venezuela who engage in drug trafficking. In other words, it's the leadership there, the government there in Venezuela, who are the drug traffickers, and that's why Trump is going to cut them off at the pass. Now, the human toll that these drugs take is taking are staggering here. The United States is going to do something about it. They've already destroyed a number of ships coming our way from Venezuela. Now the attack on the facilities and the land will start. This type of unhinged behavior, though, that these drugs are causing is indicative of the time of the end. Well, according to Paul to Timothy, people will be lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. Listen to 2 Timothy 3, 1 to 5 and see if this sounds familiar. It says, you know this, Timothy, that in the last days there'll be very difficult times. For people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly. Stay away from people like that. 2 Timothy 3, 1 to 5. Well, isn't that the truth? And so this is what we're seeing right now, as the Lord predicted, Paul told Timothy so long ago. Now, the latest from Ukraine. Deadly attacks on Kiev as Russia launches dozens of missiles and hundreds of drones. This is from Sky News. Russia attacked the Ukrainian capital with drones and missiles overnight. It comes after President Volodymyr Zelensky's top aide, a man named Andriy Yermak, quit yesterday following a search of his apartment by anti-corruption detectives. So Zelensky now is mulling a replacement for his top aide after this resignation yesterday. The man Yermak was with his top aide for 5 years and a key negotiator in the peace talks with the U.S., but now he's been shown the door because of corruption. So Sky News does a great job, by the way. If you're interested in finding out what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, they always have these recaps there. And it's, we're going to give you what they say because it kind of in a capsulized form just tells you what the latest is. Okay, to recap, where U.S.-Ukraine peace talks stand as delegation travels to America. We've heard from President Zelensky earlier today, who said that a Ukrainian delegation was en route to the U.S. to further talks on a U.S. plan to end the war. Here's where things stand on the latest American peace efforts, which started with a Russian-influenced 28-point peace plan. And so how did we get here? Well, again, here's the summary. America confirmed last week they had negotiated 28-point plan to end the war, which turned out heavily influenced by Russian positions, including generous territorial concessions. Last Saturday, Donald Trump warned Ukraine it would have to accept the plan. The government was initially given until Thanksgiving, that is 2 days ago, to accept. Trump then backed off from that. It sparked a European counterproposal that talks between Ukraine and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held in Geneva, and they narrowed the plan to 19 points. Meanwhile, reports suggested that Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, advised Russia on presenting the original plan to the president. Russian officials seem to indicate they've received these updated plans, but have avoided commenting too much on the substance. The European counterproposal, which was voted last weekend, doesn't appear to be playing a major role at this point. Here's what it looked like, and they gave us kind of a summary of it. So, bottom line, what's next? Okay. Negotiations are still ongoing. The Ukrainian delegation is set to hammer out the details of the Geneva talks in the U.S. this weekend. Zelensky said today the ball then seems to be in Moscow's court as it's yet to formally respond to the counter proposal. Witkoff is expected in Moscow in the first half of the week, as the Kremlin said yesterday, to discuss an end to the war. All right, as the Bible has predicted, Russia will be a major power in our world at the time of the end. See our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end, sign number 9, as well as our book, the Ezekiel 38-39 Invasion. It speaks in great detail, very comprehensive about what's going to take place at Russia's role at the time of the end. Both are free downloads from our website, Educating Our World, under the heading of Bible Prophecy. All right, headline number 3. Ballistic missiles launched from Iran towards Kurdistan region of Iraq. This is from the Jerusalem Post. The Islamic Republic has denied that it launched an attack. The report comes days after a drone attack on an important gas and energy installation caused power outages in the region. Last month, it was reported that the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, and Mossad, that's their, MI5 CIA, are preparing for increasing threats against Israel from Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. Cited sources, Wallace is an Israeli news source, by the way. Wallace cited sources from the military's Northern Command as saying. The report also stated the IRGC, the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, Khani, has visited Iraq and has met with senior militia leaders. See, part of the problem, again, Israel's face is not only from Iran, but Iraq too, where they've got these militias there that are doing surrogate work, as does Hamas, as does Hezbollah, as does the Houthis. So you've got them at least these 4 different countries here doing this work against Israel. In January of this year, Iraqi President Rashid highlighted ties to the Iranian state media, saying that Iran is important, a large neighbor to Iraq. Iran cannot be ignored by Iraq, and Iraq cannot be ignored by Iran. All right, what's the bottom line here? Well, Iran's going to continue to prepare to attack Israel through its proxies. And like we said, there's at least 4 of them, the militia groups in Iraq, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and of course the Houthis in Yemen. Now, they're also part, that is Iran, of the last days invasion force led by Russia that will attack Israel. And again, see sign 9 of our 25 signs. Iraq excuse me, Iran will not be the leader, though. That's where people make the mistake. With a couple of the wars that have been going back and forth between Israel and Iran the last couple of years, this has nothing to do with Ezekiel 38, 39, because it'll be a Russian-led war, Ezekiel 38, 39 invasion, that Iran will be part of the Russian force, be a surrogate, as will Turkey. All right. And finally, headline number four, and this one is rather frightening here. Nationwide rains nab 250 foreign CDL truck drivers. DHS warns cartel exploitation threatens Homeland Security. It's a Breitbart story. Federal and state authorities arrested nearly 250 commercial truck drivers in November alone, warning that cartel operatives and foreign nationals are exploiting America's commercial driver license system to infiltrate freight corridors and endanger national security. That's the big story here. A nationwide crackdown on foreign drivers with commercial driver's license, that's CDL, what it stands for, led to the apprehension of nearly 250 drivers in Arizona, Indiana, Wyoming, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and even New York and California. The federally led operation follows orders from President Donald Trump and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy to remove these often dangerous drivers from American highways. Many of the drivers were found to be illegally present in the United States. In Arizona, Border Patrol agents arrested an Uzbekistani national operating a commercial vehicle that resulted in a crash. Uzbekistani. Uh, in Indiana, DHS confirmed 146 truck drivers were detained after a fatal crash involving a foreign CDL commercial driver's license holder sparked outrage. Officials said cartel networks were exploiting loopholes in the CDL system to move contraband and operatives across interstate corridors. You see, contraband and operatives, that's the real worry. In Wyoming, Safe Hall, November 18th to 20th, result that was an operation that they did, resulted in 40 arrests and dozens of trucks being pulled off the road for safety violation. Get this, including inoperable brakes and falsified documents. ICE officials warn that foreign nationals driving 40-ton rigs without proper vetting pose a direct homeland security threat. No kidding. In Texas, 31 drivers were arrested along I-40 in Wheeler County, most of whom were carrying California issued CDLs despite lacking lawful residency. Governor Greg Abbott blasted California's licensing policies, saying cartel operatives are exploiting that loophole to drive through Texas unchecked. In New York, Border Patrol agents detained 30 drivers on a thruway near Buffalo. Now, get this, describing the arrest as evidence of a national security breach waiting to happen. More minor but high-profile arrests in California and Kansas included suspects tied to terrorism investigations. All right. Our friend Nader, for those who are new, he's a Iranian. He's Bible-believing Christian. His family was high up in the administration of the late Shah of Iran. His dad was the assistant to the secretary. He was assistant to the secretary of the treasury of the country. And he came to America, became a Bible-believing Christian, works with the intelligence, special forces intelligence network. And he told me it was a week ago or so, he sent me pictures of driver's license of these illegal drivers in California that they had pulled over, arrested, and are deporting. And some, have terrorist backgrounds, and they were worried about, there's some, chatter out there. There was going to be some terrorist activities a couple weeks ago. So they pulled over and arrested a number of drivers. And he said this is an ongoing problem, sadly, across the whole United States. They have infiltrated. They're there. Sadly, 4 years of Joe Biden having open borders and just people coming right through. And this has directly led to this fiasco. So it's a real problem. Plus the fact, driving here in California, we have a real problem. There's so many out there. We've got trucks galore. In fact, one of the intersections here, the interchanges, not too far from where we live here, maybe 10 minutes, if that, eight to 10 minutes. Well, with traffic, 20 minutes, but otherwise 5 to 8 minutes probably. It's the biggest thoroughfare in the whole United States for trucks coming to the west, to the coast, like Long Beach, to the ports there, and going out to the rest of the country. There was a morning about a month ago or so. I was going early to where my wife works, and I literally, it's what, 8 miles, 10 miles there. This is like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not exaggerating. I saw at least 300 trucks coming towards Los Angeles going west at that time. And while they were jammed, I had to go home a separate way. Now, the problem is these truck drivers, so many of them are not vetted. They're not legal. In fact, one of the problems we all have, there are accidents galore here all the time. We're very careful driving because these people keep going over the line. They're not driving very carefully here. And it's very not only unsafe situation, but there's also terrorist things, happening, human transport, with that, human trafficking, drugs, but also cartels, not only with the drugs, but also the foreign problems with the terrorists that have got through. We mentioned there's something like 1,800 Iranian terrorists who are in this country who have snuck in. We know they're here. We don't know where they're at, but they're all terrorists. They're murderers. They got through the open borders, and they're a real problem. They're in the process of getting weeded out, but it's a real hassle here in America. So all these things are taking place, and so the demise of the United States continues. We're really going downhill. We're not a player in last days Bible prophecy. That's sign 11 of our 25 signs are near the end. Sad to say. All right, that's the latest. So much going on. Wars, rumors of war. Never a dull moment. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may our Lord richly, richly bless you.